Hello, how are we doing? It's lovely to see everyone. This is always a terrifying moment because you get asked to do these things and you wake up in the morning and think, shit, I've actually got to do it today. It's lovely being back in Edinburgh. When Graham first suggested I do this, I wasn't sure quite what I'd let myself in for because this will be the longest period of time I've ever spoken for in a row. So you usually get to ask to do these things. It's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And Graham said, you've got to fill 45 minutes. So the first thing I thought is, what's the longest video I could play in 45 minutes? But no, this is a whole mix of stuff you're going to see. I've got a mix of videos, you've got bits of me, and it's only half an hour, then we're going to do a Q&A just to make it a little bit more dynamic. But thank you for the invite, and it's particularly exciting to do the Ogilvy lecture. It's just such a lovely, prestigious thing, and being a big fan of David Ogilvy and his work, it's lovely to get a chance to do it. And what better place to do it in Edinburgh? I used to be in Scotland a lot in my last job at TSB. I love coming to Scotland. And my favourite Doctor Who, David Tennant, was born here. So what's not to love about coming to Edinburgh? There'll be a few more Doctor Who references in there, for which I will not apologise. I want to start with a clip, because there are a few videos in here. It's a clip from Call the Midwife. Who doesn't love Call the Midwife? Bloody love shows like Call the Midwife. Not a lot happens each week, but that's part of the fun, isn't it? But hopefully a particularly juicy moment from Call the Midwife, and you'll be sitting there thinking, what the hell is he doing playing this clip? But it will make sense once I finish playing it. So, ladies and gentlemen, the legendary show that we all love, Call the Midwife. We all love Call the Midwife. What a show. I could have played the entire episode, but you probably would have all walked out. But the great thing about Call the Midwife is the themes that a show like that brings out. It's all their great human moments. Birth, love, tragedy, humour, prejudice and empathy all on show there. And it really covers all those stages of sickness and health that we inhibit from the moment we're born. And they are quite moving episodes when you get into them as much as I do. I promise you're not going to play clips from all my favourite TV shows, although there is one a little bit later on. I don't want you to cry over the next half an hour, but this is a little bit of an emotional roller coaster because I want to make this feel good, but I also want to really talk to you on an emotional level about that phrase, in sickness and in health. The powerful words that aren't just a very old 70s sitcom that, thank God, I'm too young to remember. But actually it's something that's ingrained in our consciousness. It's part of a wedding vow, isn't it, to be with you in sickness and in health. So for me, in sickness and health is a really, really powerful promise. It's a commitment not just when people get married, but actually I think it's a commitment that we can make and should make as brands to be with customers at every stage and moment in their life journey. Too many brand promises are quite sort of upbeat, aren't they? For sunnier tomorrows, or it's better todays, or whatever. And actually, for me, there's something powerful about brands saying, we're with you in good times, but we're also with you in tough times. I'll talk a little bit later about the Boots brand promise, which is to be with you for life. And that promises that you're going to have great days, but you're going to have shit days too. And as a brand, we're with you. If you walk in, we're with you for each of those moments. You have to skip in store and leave skipping, but actually we're with you through all of those moments. I'm going to show you one particularly powerful moment with a video clip in a second. So today, I want to talk to you about why that promise, being with you for life or being with you through sickness and health, is really important, what it means in practice, and also what purpose-led marketing, or marketing for good, as Laura powerfully demonstrated, is a good thing, and also why it also helps brands and businesses to powerfully grow. So look, we live in this high-pressure society, don't we? So just looking at the news today, we've got pandemics, wars, displacement, gaps between those that have got enough and those that haven't, an NHS that needs increasing support. And we know, according to a recent study, this was from the Institute for the Study of Business in Global Society, that people are not just looking to governments and other entities, they're increasingly looking to businesses, saying what can businesses do, and seeing businesses as places to put their trust in, and businesses being great places where you can really start to drive growth and progress. So no pressure on anyone in the room, but increasingly people are looking to us to fix some of those problems. There was an Edelman Trust Barometer this year too, and that found that the only trusted institution was business, 63%, far ahead of government, and that was based on perception and ethics. And given the state of recent governments, I can see why that's probably the case. So it's also encouraging. I'm wearing another hat here. I chair something called Front Foot in the Advertising Association. If you're not involved with the AA as well as the Marketing Society, please do so. Plug there. See Sharon on row 3 afterwards. They recently did a Values of Trust report, and that showed that trust in advertising is starting to improve for the first time in over a decade. Now, look, that starts from quite a low bar, but that's a good sign of people are trusting more of what they're seeing and more of the work that we're doing. Now, what's interesting is that's particularly prevalent in the younger audiences below 55 are starting to trust and believe advertising more, which I think again gives us a powerful platform to share our work and share more about what our brands do. And of all those channels, earlier on, I know, in fact, looking at the legend there, that's Chris outside in the room there, there's not enough room for the legends earlier on to sit here. They're cheering from the sidelines. TV, although Chris, you need to invite me. Here he is. Whatever parties he goes to, I'm next on the invite list for those. But TV is the big dog of trust. TV is seen particularly as the key channel people are leaning into, or screen watching, whatever you want to call it earlier on, powered by AI. All right, Pete? So it's the single biggest driver, and I'll come back to later on. It's a powerful driver of trust. Now, I am, as was mentioned a moment ago, lucky enough to be the president of ISBA, the Incorporated Society of British Advertisers, across the UK. I am younger than both the US presidential candidates, even Kamala. That joke worked better when it was the two other previous candidates. But look, I know wearing that hat, which is nothing like any of those other presidential jobs. But I know that trust is really important, and we've got a lot to do and a bigger job to do to increase the level of trust that consumers have in advertising. And that ensures, I think, critically, that we've got to do a lot more work on sustainability and a lot more work on increasing diversity, equity and inclusion in our work. Laura did a great job of remembering a quote I'd forgotten I'd given, but I really do believe that actually in advertising we've got to show the society, a society as we want it to be seen, to show real diversity, to tell stories, to tell powerful stories about how we want society to show up and how we want people to feel truly loved and accepted for who they are. Now, I've talked about in sickness and in health, and I'm going to start with the one that's going to feel more gloomy. I'm going to start with the sickness bit. Okay, I'm going to talk with about the tougher stuff in life, and then I'm going to talk about the cool stuff, well-being, looking good, feeling great, and having fun. So be prepared to be hopefully optimistic throughout. We're going to start with the sickness stuff first. So look, everybody has a story to tell, I know, and there'll be people in this room about a family member who suffered from a difficult or debilitating illness, and they will remember some of the powerlessness that comes with that. Now, 24 years ago, sadly, I lost my mum, Rosemary, to cancer, and it was just one of awful moments seeing someone you love just slip away from you piece by piece. And the impact of that is something that stays with me every day. There's not a day I don't wake up and think, God, I just want to pick up the phone and talk to my mum. My mum never got to meet my kids. She died a year before my son was born. And everyone in the room I know will have a story that is powerful or more powerful than that. Cancer isn't just a disease, it's a pervasive infrastructure, and the brands that people living with cancer interact with and are supported by are integral throughout that journey. You really know if a brand is standing with you, if they're with you in some of the more difficult and tough moments in life. Now, within Boots, we work with Macmillan. I'm going to play you a video about that in a moment. So Macmillan Cancer Support, we've partnered with that charity for over 10 years. They were originally called Angels of Death because they arrived and were helping people at the last moments in life. But as a charity, they've realised they're about so much more than that. They realised that it could be movements and catalysts for change during difficult moments in people's lives. Both at a meta level, they've lobbied for changes in the law, in fundraising for more research and better resources, but also still they're delivering support, advice, transport, dealing with depression, the ravages on your body, and all the financial plan that comes when you're battling a disease like that, because it really literally takes over your life. It affects everything. And so our Macmillan partnership is one example I want to give of how partnering with an organisation and brands coming together can collectively be this amazing force for good, helping to enhance the lives of cancer patients and also their families too. But also it powerfully has impacted our people in Boots. We've trained hundreds of beauty specialists to be there to support people who are going through cancer. So if you walk in store and you're going through chemotherapy, as I'll show in a moment, a beauty specialist will greet you and meet you and help you with a beauty regime that's tailored towards what you're going through in that moment. We also have pharmacists who are trained to help people who are going through those situations too, whether you are someone going through cancer yourself or whether you're a partner of someone going through that as well. So I'm going to play this video now, which is about one of our number 7 beauty specialists, and she is in store and she is helping someone who is going through chemotherapy with their beauty treatment. It is a very positive, I hope, film. It's uplifting about what that person does. But I'm always moved, particularly when I get to the end of the film. So I just want to prepare you that it is a very moving film, particularly at the end. This is the only hard-hitting film I'm sharing today. We go a little bit more to skippy, jolly times, and a clip from one of my favourite movies next. But I just want to, for me, this really brings to life the work we do at Macmillan and why marketing can powerfully be that force for good. So those are the amazing people that I get to work with every single day, that marketing can be a force for good. And because you swore earlier on, fuck cancer. So brands need to guide, support and celebrate and fight for their audiences, customers, staff, colleagues, whatever they are experiencing. And as the AA's report I referenced earlier on illustrates, we need to do this by demonstrating moments of emotional connection like the film a moment ago. Show me funny, make me cry, and I will follow you. So we can tell stories powerfully about what we're doing, and that's a great way to connect with audiences. And this is really important, I think, for me as a marketer, because I think it's a huge opportunity for brands to really reach audiences in new ways. Now, I'm going to slightly show my comic con ignorance by talking about Game of Thrones. And I was asked to include this reference by my co-writer of the speech. I've never ever watched an episode, so I feel like a complete fraud. But there's what's slightly odd is I'm watching the prequel to it without watching actual Game of Thrones, which is probably nuts, but that's probably the right way around to watch it, isn't it? Anyway, I certainly didn't watch Star Wars that way around. So there's the Mother of Dragons, Daenerys Targaryen, is that right? All fans in the room are thinking, oh my God, what's he talking about? So she coined this amazing phrase when she, I think, she had a tsunami of rage and turned a bit of a dictator. And those in the room are thinking I'm describing this completely badly or brilliantly. So her view was, we need to change and disrupt and change things. And there was a wonderful phrase about, she said, I don't want to change the wheel, I want to break the wheel. I love that. So I don't want to change the wheel, I want to break the wheel. So the first time I ever quoted from a show I've never watched. In other words, be the change you want to be. Don't just change the wheel, break the wheel. And don't just refer to the tried and tested ways. This is a clip I've always wanted in my entire life to use from one of my all-time favourite films from 1981. And this is for me the perfect demonstration of how if you do something different, it's a good thing. So bear with me. So thank you, Ogilvy lecturer, for indulging me by showing a clip from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Apparently that was Harrison Ford's idea. He just went, look, Indiana Jones just wouldn't rock up and just have a sword fight, because that was supposed to be. He'd pull a gun, and he did. So if you want to break the wheel, not change the wheel, do something different, do something unexpected, be more Indiana Jones. And if you take nothing else from this, be more Indy is what it's all about. So look, I love being part of Boots. You got to see a moment ago some of our wonderful people and what they do every day. We are 175 years old this year. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the history, because it's important to understand why Boots is the way it is today. So right from the start, we've had these key brand attributes: trust, quality, care, accessibility, reliability, dependability. And all of that is brought to life in With You for Life, as I described earlier on. So for every decade we've been around, we've been democratizing healthcare, improving the nation's well-being, caring for the communities we serve, and helping people look and feel good. And all that still informs what we do right now. The company was founded by this incredible guy called John Boot. And what was happening 175 years ago is people were dying because they couldn't afford healthcare. There was like monopoly of these pharmacists who were making shitloads of money out of rich people, to the point where poorer people couldn't afford it. And again, excuse my French, John Boot went bollocks to that. I actually want everyone to be able to afford medicine and healthcare. So he set up a pharmacist and went, I'm going to make this affordable so people with not a lot of money can get medicine. And what happened? All the pharmacists tried to shut him down. They tried to create new laws. They tried to put this guy out of business. And he went no and held firm. His story continued because he had an amazing, amazing son, and his name was Jesse Boot. And Jesse Boot was not only brilliant, he also had a brilliant, brilliant wife called Florence. And together they were an absolute powerhouse. Florence Boot was called, I think it was in the House of Commons, that stupid woman, because she just kept doing amazing things that confounded arrogant men. And she was all about change and disruption. So she helped train women to become store leaders and managers and train them in retail. It's thanks to her we got the 5-day working week. She lobbied for that. And I could just keep going with Florence stories. Her portrait is going to actually be in the National Gallery soon. It's currently hanging somewhere in Nottingham. She was an absolute trailblazer for women's rights and women in work. And her and Jesse together were this powerhouse around continuing this journey for democratizing healthcare, getting healthcare into the hands of those that needed it the most. So talk about breaking the wheel, they absolutely did it. The opposition this family had, every stage they went through, people tried to stop them, and break them down. And it's thanks to them we've got Boots as it is today. And thanks to them we've also got healthcare the way it is today. So many parallels between their story and the foundation of the NHS. So if you want to change things, as the Boot family demonstrated, you have to believe in the impossible. And that's one of the things I love. I actually love it when people say, oh, you can't do that. And there was one thing when I came into Boots where someone said, oh, it's always been that way for 10 years, you can't change it. And I went, okay, let's change it then. And actually it's so much fun when you see things that people think are impossible and you go, let's make that possible and let's see what we can do. And actually the thing we changed is better now than it was before. And you think, that's great, isn't it? That's progress. So I love it when I'll set a challenge, someone will come to me afterwards and go, I've got this impossible thing. I love those moments when you go, let's make it possible. So anyway, the journey for me into the role I'm in today hasn't always been about working for purpose-led brands. I think what I found is finding my place in doing impossible things has been finding a journey into brands that have real purpose. And so earlier on in my career, I had the good fortune to work in financial services. And I worked for some amazing brands that I love, but also one in particular that was almost the opposite of what I've described and the opposite of the film I played you 2 films ago. In that it was like a machine, like a robotic machine, sort of churning out and making money, but there was just no soul to this business. And I think for me, I thrive most when I'm in businesses where it's got a heartbeat and a soul and you can inject that to it as well. So this ability to be able to change and transform, I think is far stronger when you can do it and get yourself in a brand or a slipstream where you're able to get behind that purpose, support it and drive it, and a business with real purpose. If you haven't got one, find one, inject it and make it the heart of the business you're in. So I left that insurance company that I won't name for TSB, which actually TSB was founded in Scotland, in Edinburgh. The headquarters are in Edinburgh, set up by the Reverend Henry Duncan, another pioneer. He basically found that people with not a lot of money had nowhere to save their money. So he set up the Trustees Savings Movement. That became the Trustees Savings Bank, founded in Scotland, in Edinburgh, all around the UK today. If you don't bank with anyone else, bank with TSB. The other brilliant thing TSB do, it's not in my script actually, is the fraud refund guarantee. Okay, so one of the things we launched when I was there, you can see I love purpose-driven brands, is if someone cons you out of your money, so if someone rings me up right now, as I'm here at the Ogilvy lecture, and basically says, hey Pete, give us your bank details because it's a good thing to do, and I go, yeah, great, here's my sort code, it begins with, no it doesn't, okay. So if I was to do that, TSB would immediately refund me the money because they'd realise I'd been scammed. All other banks will say, no, it's my fault. I gave my details away. TSB, 100% guaranteed fraud refund. So there you go, good tip. So if you think you're going to get scammed, which most of us don't think we do, bank with TSB. But again, that's another evidence of how you can get into a brand, you can get into business, and you can do some really good purpose-driven activity as well. Now, Boots has been a brilliant extension for me of coming from one purpose-driven brand into another. And we've done a lot over the last few years, not just what I talked about with the story of Jesse and Florence and John Boot back in the day. Through the pandemic, we showed up, we were one of the places where you can get COVID testing. We were one of the first to do COVID vaccinations. And actually even during things like the First or Second World War, we were sending supplies out to people on the front line. They're little, you can buy some of them on eBay. They're also available in some museums, little boxes with basic, simple medication for our soldiers when they were fighting for our freedom several years back as well. And so we've also used our stores to test new services. There's a service called Pharmacy First. You've already got that in Scotland. We've just done that in England. We've been able to pioneer that service. There's about half a dozen conditions you can wander into pharmacies now. We can now deal with that without you needing to go and see a doctor. That's things like earache and back pain, all sorts of stuff as well. We've also helped save lives, and I'm going to come back to that in a moment because saving lives is part of what we do and quite powerfully what we do. I'm going to give another example first, which is an example from another business who put purpose at their heart and saw very powerful results. So 30 years ago, which I can only just about remember, the Co-op ran something called a Stranger Danger campaign. And they advertised on the back of cereal packets working with a charity called Kidscape. And part of that was something called a Yell, Run and Tell initiative that was on the back of cereal packets when you bought them in a Co-op store. And that was all about preventing child abduction. And powerfully, they literally just launched that, the cereal boxes were out, and immediately started to get feedback from parents that this was having an impact, that the CWS activity, as they called it, was generating calls and people going, God, I've seen this is happening, my child has done this as a result of it. And that's just putting activity on the back of a cereal pack working with a charity. So it shows, again, if you put your purpose front and center, you get the right level of partnership, you can powerfully see marketing as very much that demonstrative force for good. So I talked about Boots and saving lives, and you're probably looking at me going, God, has advertising ever saved someone's life? So I'm not going to do a show of hands because you all look incredibly youthful, and I imagine every single one of you is using number 7 Future Renew that is guaranteed to reverse the signs of skin damage, apparently, including skin damage when you've been out in the sun. Available in all Boots stores now and on boots.com. Amazing deals, and best, to be honest, if you haven't got the Advantage card in the app, sign up today. Incredible Christmas range that I can't wait for you to see. And I'm going to show you something Christmassy in a moment. So I talked about saving lives. What happens? So we run this free health MOT for those that are over 40. So if you're not 40 yet, there's at least something to look forward to, isn't it? When you get to 40, you can come to Boots and you can have a free health check with us. Well, we've had a few stories in, and there's one story that really stands out. A lady came in for a free health MOT. You think, I'll try this thing out. Turned out she had whopping blood pressure, through the roof blood pressure. We had to send her straight to hospital to A&E. And it was only that intervention genuinely that saved her life, because otherwise she had no idea what was going on. So it's just they're little things, but just show actually how bringing your purpose front and center, the service and what you do, helping your customers can genuinely start to save lives. You'll see a lot more from us in that space as well. Now, I promised you that we wouldn't just stay in the world of sickness. We talk about health and well-being. So now I'm going to move to the more sunny side, even happier side of what we do within Boots, which is all about health and what we do as well. Now, we know that not everyone is able to enjoy good health all the time. We know that actually those that are on lower incomes aren't able to afford access to healthcare or the food or everything they need as well. And that's challenging. So our job in Boots is to be with everyone at every moment and every stage of that journey. So talking about making a difference, I think you can do that one thing at a time as a brand as well. There are big initiatives like the stuff I talked about with Macmillan. There are big moments like Indiana Jones pulling his gun and saying we're going to change and radically disrupt, as the Boots family did at the start. But you can do it one piece at a time. Now, when Boots was formed 175 years ago, hygiene poverty was a massive thing. John Boot talked about being able to give people access to soap and a sponge. It was that basic. You got medication, but you've got to be able to wash and clean and everything else. We've partnered since about 2019 with a great organisation called the Hygiene Bank. Now, second only to food poverty is hygiene poverty. Still a big issue in the UK today. Hygiene poverty affects so many things. You just take how kids interact at school. If they're not able to have access to soap or clean products, not able to take part in social activity or sporting activity, it definitely starts to hold kids back. So we got involved with the Hygiene Bank, and amazing partners like Unilever, referenced earlier on, have got involved with that too. And so we've now got over 700 donation points in our stores, and when customers donate, we donate too. And that's really starting to make a difference in customers' lives. We've donated millions of products to try and tackle and hit hygiene poverty. The reason I particularly love this work with the Hygiene Bank is it's very easy to make a difference. So often you'll see causes to support, you think, golly, how do I even begin to change this thing, because it's such a big thing. It's so simple. You just go in and buy a 99p shower gel, pop it in the box, and we'll donate equivalent. It's that easy to make a difference. And even those simple things can make a massive, massive difference in people's lives. I got involved with the Hygiene Bank in Kent last year, packaging up some products for Christmas, and just hearing the difference that a simple shower and deodorant set would make in the life of a family, you go, God, this is such important work. It's powerful work. So I love the work we do with the Hygiene Bank, and I'm one of the co-exec sponsors for this and the work at Macmillan. So if you want to find out more, you want to get involved, please come and see me after this. I've just gone totally off my own script, which is always good, isn't it, as well? So just say Unilever have been an amazing partner, but with them we've donated over 300,000 products. So the other good thing about marketing for good is bringing people on the journey with you who want to come on that journey with you. And we're lucky to work with some amazing suppliers and partners. So you can go it alone, you could be a pioneer breaking that wheel, you can find like-minded people and go, let's go on a journey and let's change some stuff together. It's powerful, powerful stuff. So I want to tell another story about an area where I think we as marketers can be a force for good, and that's on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I've been on quite a journey personally with this, both in terms of the impact I think you can make as a marketer, but also as a leader in a business. I don't think it's optional now to do stuff on DE&I. It's just what we've got to do. If you want to see change in your organisation, I know it's a cliche about be the change, but be the change, be that thing, be the catalyst for change in the business you're in, and make the difference and be the difference you want to see. Now, I don't personally identify myself as part of the LGBT community, but I was challenged back in my Aviva days about 7 years ago by an amazing lady called Jan Gooding. Jan's also graced this stage beforehand, phenomenal marketer and human being. And she said to me when I was there, she said, we need to get a new exec sponsor for the LGBT network in Aviva. Would you like to do it? And I had this sort of intake of breath and went, if honest, I feel a bit of a fraud because I don't identify as part of that community. What on earth have I got to bring? And am I just going to seem like a complete idiot because I'm out of my depth? And I remember her words, she said, but that's the point. If you do, And if you act as an ally and you are the champion and you are the exec sponsor, it sends a powerful signal to everyone else about inclusion and about involvement. And I absolutely loved my time chairing that network at Aviva. We were able to set up a whole comms program around inclusion, loving yourself, being loved for who you are, and that flowed through our marketing and also flowed through a lot of our internal activity as well. I remember also going to a really powerful dinner, actually at Lloyd's Bank in London at my Aviva time, actually, on the whole theme of transgender. And it was just so powerful hearing other people's stories and lived experiences. So much of the filter of what we do in life is through our own experience. I see the world through the life I've lived, but not through the life you've lived. And I think those experiences are so powerful to see and identify with other people's lived experiences. So it's been brilliant to do that, but also being able to do that right across what I've done then at TSB, but also at Boots. And as marketers, I think we can weave it into our day job, as I'm going to show in a moment. We can put that into our creative and our content. We can show that in our work, as evidenced by Laura earlier on. The more we do that, the more it changes society. I love that Rory quote around the impact we can have. Almost we don't know we're being influenced, but the change is so powerful. But also I think as a leader in the business, one of the things I got challenged over years ago was I was in another insurance company called Royal & Sun Alliance, and I used to go to the exec meeting every couple of months to go and share about what we're doing in marketing. And to be honest, I'm not cocky and arrogant, but I did get a little cocky and arrogant. I thought, I'm doing all right here. And I asked one of the directors for some feedback, thinking he's going to say, good job, fella, good job. Go and buy yourself a beer. And he basically said, not great, to be honest. He said, actually, you keep trying to convince us you're good at marketing. We wouldn't have you in the room if you weren't. You need to convince us you're a really great all-round leader. And you go, shit, actually, and literally all I was doing was presenting, here's a great marketing plan and some advertising. And they were going, oh, yeah, we know you're good at this stuff. But actually as leaders, the further we get in our career, it's all about the broader impact we can have. And I think particularly on DE&I, it's about the change we make as marketers, marketing for good, but also as marketing leaders, what impact can we have on the organizations we're in. So I talked about Christmas. I'm literally knee deep in Christmas. I have tinsel in my ears. I have Christmas stockings and Christmas crackers in my bag, and we're getting ready to redo and step into Christmas. I'd love to tell you all about it, but I can't. I'd have to tell myself off. That all starts, and actually we're filming it 2 weeks tomorrow is all I'm going to say. It's very exciting. It's my 4th Christmas at Boots. But I'm going to wind back 2 years ago to the Christmas campaign we did from 2 years ago called Joy for All. So you're all going to have to think festive, all right, for a moment. I want you to imagine you are getting ready to buy your Christmas presents for your loved ones. The important reason why I'm showing this campaign is we actually developed this with our Pride network within Boots, because it features an amazing drag queen called Thomas. And when we were doing the story, I was just wanting so much for this to be a really authentic story in terms of how Thomas showed up in the storyline through every aspect, because you'll see him transform into his drag queen persona, but also there's a clip at the end when he receives a gift. Every bit of that, our Pride network worked with us on the scripting and how that showed up to make sure the story was and felt authentic, and I hope you'll feel the same when you see it. Because the danger otherwise is, I see the world through my own eyes. I could watch it and go, yeah, that's great. Someone else could see it and go, God, that just feels just unreal. And that's not what we wanted to achieve, particularly an advert that's about the fantastical. So, let me take you back 2 years ago. So many stories behind this campaign. I watch it and I think, oh God, that was the moment when we sat in a sweaty minibus in the rain eating cold pizza. That was the bit on the bus when you'll see filmed in a moment. So this is about magical glasses. Lydia West is in this. Lydia West was also in Russell T Davies's brilliant It's a Sin. She was a delight to work with. She finds some magical glasses and the rest will go from there. I'll tell you one final story, which also shows marketing be a force for good, but marketing leaders can also get it wrong a lot. There's one bit in here where when she puts the glasses on, some of the passengers suddenly have like a reindeer, fluffy reindeer head on. The director's sign ad said, we really want to film this slightly surreal thing. And I went, okay, you can do it if we've got time, but I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And if you put it in the edit, don't. It's really bad. They put it in the first edit and I loved it. So it stayed in. So anyway, shaped by our Pride community, trying to tell hopefully a powerful story about inclusion, but also Christmas, gifting and giving, and the joy of magical glasses. This is Joy for All. That's Joy for All. Hopefully everyone's feeling very festive now. And I promise this Christmas is going to be even better than that still. But we had so much fun making that campaign. I've always wanted to use that song in advert as well. So many other stories I could tell you. We end up filming the glasses case and the logo was upside down, so we had to fix that in post as well. So it's, I'm sure it's one other story I could tell. Anyway, loads of stories, but see me afterwards, I'll try and remember the other stories. So Boots has been an amazing influence on my career, but that was also before I joined Boots. And there's an amazing lady that used to run marketing Boots called Elizabeth Fagan, who I think has also been up here for many events in the past. She was another great example of someone who's broke the glass ceiling, was a pioneer in her industry, a great female leader who went from being CMO to then CEO and running that business very successfully for a number of years, juggling all of the many challenges that come with life too. And she made a massive difference both in my career and in many others. And actually to follow her footsteps has been incredible, but also slightly terrifying. You certainly feel in Boots that you're carrying a torch. We have a thing called an archive in Boots where you get to visit it. It's like there's a moment in Dead Poets Society when they look at all these black and white photos and people are whispering at you, and it feels that way. And I did once say to my team, we went, I said, one day it'll be us in those black and white pictures whispering back. So you know you're a little footnote in history. I want to talk now about something else that we've got very heavily involved with, because Boots is definitely about democratising healthcare, but we are synonymous and known for championing women's health. And the menopause is a really important topic. It's something that every woman will go through, and it's something that there's just so much information out there, some of it great and some of it not good enough. And our view was, a couple of years ago, we have to grab this moment. We have to do something and be there to support women and also men, because the information is useless. And as a guy who has a partner who's been through the menopause, you sort of get to a point as a guy going, golly, actually, I don't know what to do either. So information is really important. Having someone who's with you literally to that stage of life is more important than ever. And so we have partnered with an amazing organisation called Gen where when you go into our Boots stores now, there's a little M-tick device. So any product that's helping you through the hundreds of symptoms through the menopause, that is shown up in each of our stores and also shown online. Gen are great to work with. But we also did a whole content series. I'm going to play you a couple of minute film that shows some of what we did called Menopause Monologues, just to try and bring about this change by telling really positive and honest stories about people's journey through the menopause and actually how Boots are with you and literally by your side and with you through that journey of life. And that's the work we've done on the menopause. I should have put some music to those bits, shouldn't I? Or I should have hummed along or something. So you'll hear more about that in a moment. So yeah, I think it's really important, isn't it, when I think you can connect with a topic like that and provide information, support, advice and help, but also practically things you're doing in store and easily signpost that as well. You'll see a lot more from us on the work we're doing on the menopause. In fact, over the next 6 months, we've got a big campaign launching just after the summer as well. That for me is another way to bring marketing for good more centre stage in the organisation you're in. Make it a rallying call in what you're doing. You want to drive that change, get all the business involved. There's a great model I love that Interbrand do about brand purpose, which there's 4 boxes to it. And often what can happen to us as marketers is people look at what we do and go, brilliant, you're a force for good in campaigns. So it's great, you're doing brilliant creative work, nothing wrong with that. But what Interbrand would say, to be a really successful, to really deliver your brand purpose successfully and for it to have a commercial benefit, you need to be in 4 areas. The first of which is communications and storytelling, absolutely right. The second of which is in products and services. So the things you sell and what you do need your purpose to show up. The next is in people and culture. So the people you hire, what they do, the experience they give. Just imagine our fantastic number 7 beauty advice from earlier on. And then the other one is environment and channels. So when I walk into a Boots store, when I go on your website, it's shown here, am I seeing that and feeling that too? And Interbrand would argue, and I would agree with that, if you're doing it through all 4 of those boxes, then you're driving that real change, and that's marketing for good. But also it's about your entire organisation moving in that direction with you. It isn't just one box of, I've done a great campaign that's got some inclusion elements in it. It's actually about everything we do, and the focus of our organisation, what we do, is all about driving that good. The great example of Dove earlier on, and we work a lot with Dove, is exactly like that. That belief system, that value system is in that entire unit within that business and how they think. It's not just what's the next clever campaign. To do something like the great film Laura showed earlier on takes the entire business to go, we're going to stand for this thing and we're going to stand together for it. So again, as marketing for change, yes, be the change in the function you're in, but as I mentioned a moment ago, impact, drive that change, influence all 3 of those other boxes, be involved in all 4. As marketers, we should be involved in the people and culture of our business. We should be involved in how our shops look, how our websites look, and also involved directly in what we sell and how we sell it. So, as was referenced a moment ago, Laura slightly stolen my thunder, but in a nice way, is I'm going to share a moment of sort of, I guess, personal vulnerability of something I've got involved with about, I guess, personal change. So we talked a lot about marketing for change. I did an interview recently for Marketing Week about taking on ISBA, and I talked about the need to continually evolve and change and how that really matters. And I think that is absolutely key for us as marketers in our change to be better and to be a force for good in marketing. The need to constantly evolve ourselves is an important bit too. So stepping outside your comfort zone, I think, is increasingly important to do that because it helps you take on some of the challenges I've described earlier on, but I think hopefully helps to advance you and advance your thinking too. So the example I'm going to give, and you probably don't know this because this probably hasn't been remotely funny, this talk, but is I have been learning improvised comedy for the last 5 years. And now, improvised comedy is not stand-up comedy, so thank God you're thinking, you're not going to get Jack Whitehall or someone else here. As you see, I'm using auto cue. I can't learn a script or set for toffee. Improv comedy is where you are always with other people. You're interacting with at least 2, 3 or 4 other people on a set routine, and you're basically you make everything up so that you could throw at me saying you're on a beach, and the reason you know this other person is they are your wife, sister, brother, and everything else is made up. Now, terrifyingly, about 6 months ago, I thought, well, let's take it further. I've been learning improvised singing. So I'm now on the intermediate course for improvised singing, where you literally make songs up to tunes that don't exist till you've just started singing them. And I did my penultimate lesson for that on Tuesday night. God, it's terrifying. And I'm not a natural, I'm not going to even attempt to sing to you now. No. Although here's my version of Nessun Dorma. No, it's fine. But there's nothing more terrifying than doing that. But what it's really taught me is around, first of all, accepting that you're going to fail at some things. And actually in business often we don't love that thought of failing. I think part of that journey to being a force for good is tripping over. Not everything's going to go right. What's great with improv is there are so many shows. I do a show once a month. I'm with a troupe called Hawaii 5-No, and the joke is there's only 4 of us, okay? Thank God you laughed at that point. So we all wear Hawaiian shirts, and occasionally we're funny. But often you walk away from a show like that thinking, God, that was 6 out of 10. And the funniest thing you could have said, you think about half an hour after the show's finished, God, if I'd said that, oh, it would have been brilliant. If I'd sung that thing. But improv, musical improv, being a whole new thing because trying to hold a tune, and then also we're learning having to rhyme in a set with each other, where I might start a line, someone has to rhyme with me, and then the other night we're learning 2 lines, and then the purpose along here would be doing the chorus, and then you all sing the chorus. And we only got to do a show to a few hundred people in a couple of weeks' time, so what's going to go wrong? Probably everything. But I'd encourage you to find those sorts of things if you can step outside your comfort zone and learn. The other bit that improv has really given me is a really diverse friendship group as well. And again, there's a certain point in life, so I'll talk about myself here rather than point to anyone in the room, is that often your friends start to look and be like you. And what's been amazing with improv is surrounding myself with people that are nothing like me at all, who think differently, act differently, and also don't care what job I do, nor should anyone in this room. But it's lovely when you walk in the room, it's just, here's Pete in a pair of jeans, a t-shirt and a trainers, who literally has come to make some songs up. And no one's going, oh my God, it's the CMO of whatever. If they did, I'd probably leave the opposite direction. It's just amazing to hang out with people where actually it's about playing, having fun and creating and failing together. So you won't all want to do that, but I'd encourage you, find that thing where you can experiment, learn, find joy in failure, and amazingly translate that into business. Now, you're saying to me, what the hell's that got to do with marketing? 4 years ago, I persuaded 9 other CMOs to learn improv comedy with me. We had a crash course in 6 weeks. Yeah, it was nuts. It nearly finished me. We put on a show and raised 30 grand for comic relief. And every single one of them going through the process went, oh my God, this has transformed my brain and my thinking. I can think more creatively, freer. And again, none of us were alike, and we're now friends for life. So find that thing, find your version of improv comedy, find a way to multiply it. Now, but as Laura said, you will not catch me near the Edinburgh Fringe this year, or probably next year either, or the year after that. So watch this space. So I think that marketing for good can be this incredible thing. It can be this imperative that we drive. But I also think that it can't just stay something that has a sort of a good cultural impact. It can also be something that I think powerfully changes the performance of a business too. Now, I was able to do some research into a company I'd never heard of, and you won't have either, called Interface Floor. And you afterwards be thinking, God, that sounds like such an interesting company. It isn't, but they were in carpet tile production, but the CEO of that business, a guy called Ray Anderson, clocked years ago that sustainability was going to be a big and important thing that he cared enough about. He transformed that entire business, how they operated and manufactured it, and made that business more successful and more profitable, but through the lens of sustainability being the most important thing. So it's possible and you can do it, and the Boots story proves that too. James Timpson is the CEO of Timpson's. He's just become prisons minister, a great pioneer again for someone being a force for good, who now is on a government stage and a bigger stage driving good too as well. Am I running out of time? Yeah, I am. Okay, it was good. What's funny is I timed this a lot shorter, but you're such a good audience. I won't talk all day. It's fine. So look, I'm going to wrap here by saying that I love being in marketing. I love being involved with the Marketing Society in Scotland. I love being involved with the AA and ISBA and industry organisations trying to drive positive change in our industry. Marketing can be this incredible force for good. Think about the story of the Boots family right from the start, challenging, changing, breaking the wheel, find more ways to break the wheel. And I think us as marketing leaders, let's be the change in the businesses we're in, driving that impact, and in society and beyond, and let's be that force for good. Thank you.